But you don't need to do that. I can edit all this shit out. Comics as a medium have been around for essentially thousands of years, dating all the way back to cave paintings depicting great stories told to others of warning and of danger or heroic triumph. From there we get tales of grandeur and wonder from different mythologies like Hercules. The comics how we know them today, though, didn't really get started until the 1930s with the popularity of the adventures of Tintin, a story of a reporter named Tintin who goes on adventures with his friend Captain Haddock. After that, Superman hit the pages of Action Comics back in 1938 and blew up what today would be what the modern comic is. We now have a new generation of myths and legends to follow, whether it be Superman or Spider-Man or some other tale. Comics as a medium have changed how we tell stories. Since then, we've had millions of comics from different publishers and from different creatives who all have different ideas for stories in this medium. With that being said, comics are huge and honestly getting more popular by the day, which is cool to see in such a niche hobby still has people coming back to it every week. Especially when there's great new comics and new ways to get into it. With the very affordable compact line from DC or Marvel's Premier Collection, access to these stories are easier than ever. With that being said, stores don't make it easy to get into the medium. Or do they? Comics aren't a new thing, and comics as a storytelling device have been around forever. So honestly, comics are not that hard to get into, but understandably, they are a lot to look at. There are so many different ways to read books. Sometimes you walk into a comic book store and just stare at all the selections. That's where I come in. I, Evan from Warpboard Productions, are here to show you how to get into comics as a hobby and show you some of the books that are worth the time. Now let's start with this. How many different ways are there to read comics? Well, honestly, there's quite a few actually. Let's start with the simple stuff. Streaming or e-reading comics are a convenient way of reading comics. Apps like DC Infinite or Marvel Unlimited are quick and easy ways to read comics. But to me, these run into the same problem. There is too much shit and you don't know where to start. It's not streamlining the experience of reading comics. And honestly, it's not as much fun. Nothing like walking to your favorite comic book store and talking to other comic readers about what stories you are currently enjoying. Yes, the convenience is great. Yes, it's actually a little bit more affordable, but there are better, more fun ways to get into this. And when it comes to affordability, this isn't even the cheapest option. Libraries are a huge asset in this hobby. Every little town has a library. And I definitely know there are quite a few libraries in big metropolitan areas. Hell, St. Louis has the St. Louis County Library System that has over 20 libraries in its chain. Libraries are a great place to pick up a book. To be honest, I go to libraries more than just books. There's a nice place to study or a quiet place to work. They also have a huge selection of graphic novels as well. I mainly go here to read comics I haven't added to my personal collection yet. You may think this is all old comics and such as that, but to be honest, I find newer books all the time. These are all great stories, and the library is a great resource to find these stories. Now on to comic book stores. Comic stores are cool because they are just typically a chain and have a lot of stores in an area. They're typically locally owned. The store I go to in my area is the Fantasy Shop on Baptist Church Road in South County, Missouri. The staff are awesome and are always so kind. They also have selections with reads the staff love and selections on the series that you can start from the beginning, which are actually super nice of stores to do for new readers. Especially since the launch of new titles that still sell out stores, the influx of popularity of superheroes in modern culture, stores really need that selection for new readers. Then there's the back issue wall where stores sell extra issues of stuff that they didn't sell immediately. Good for collectors who want to get single issues of a story. Now to address the first stress most people have when they run into walking into a comic book store is the different selections of books. Hardcover, paperback, some big, some small. There are a lot of things to look at. Well, there's a few different books to look at. The single issue. Usually a singular story, they'll have you continued it when the next issue comes out, when more of that story comes out. Some single issues are self-contained stories, but don't typically happen very often and are a fun read. Next is the graphic novel. Typically contains a singular arc of a story in the mainline comics. Or sometimes it's a self-contained narrative. This is my personal favorite way to read comics. The stories in this format are easy to read and honestly are what got me into comics. They can connect to other stories, or they could just be what they are. Just a story that exists in a book. Then there are the big boys. The omnibus. Usually a few different arcs of a story in an ongoing series. These are nice, but run a bit expensive. Cool to have if you want to read a lot of a character's history. Like I said earlier though, graphic novels are what I typically go for. Now you're asking, Mr. Evan, what are some stories I should read to get my toes wet? Not to fret your face. I got some recommendations. Now these are stories I read and like. These are no way a definitive must-read list for comic readers. To be honest, before I say any comics to read, I should say that read whatever you want. Don't be afraid to just grab a book that looks cool and give it a read. Look, I know you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but the cover exists for a reason. They are to hook the reader into buying or reading the book. Don't judge and hate a book by its cover, but if a book comes your way and it doesn't seem to fit your vibe, put it in the backlog and come back to it when you're ready. I've dropped a lot of mainline stories because I just didn't like the direction of the story. It's okay, I stopped reading it and I went on to something else. But I don't dismiss this stuff because you don't think you'll like it. Give it a few pages and see if you like it. It's like TV. Give it an episode or two, see if you like it, and if you don't, stop reading. It's fine. Just part of the process. With that being said, here's some recommendations. These are 3 stories from 3 different publishers that exemplify what comics offer other than your run-of-the-mill superhero story. Don't get me wrong, superheroes rule the comic book world. But good superhero stories subvert the tropes of the genre. And honestly ask the question of why do the superheroes do this? If it's not asking that, it's pushing the character in new directions that hasn't been before. That's why I'm picking 2 stories from the big publishers Marvel and DC. You'll know these characters and these stories, just not the way that they are told. This first story is kind of like that, asking a hero, why do what you do, providing some actual dialogue on why his quest isn't the right way to do it. That story is Batman White Knight, written and illustrated by Sean Murphy. I have time. I can find it. There it is. This book. These will come with a quick summary that tells you what the story is about. This story follows Jack Napier, aka the Joker, who's gone sane. He goes on political attack against Batman and his way of fighting crime in Gotham. It is an interesting dissection of the character of Batman and also the character of Jack Napier. I picked this because we all know Batman. He's pretty simple, loses parents, League of Assassins, becomes Batman, right? What happens when his greatest foe starts making sense? What happens when his ideology is tested by the one person who wants to break him? The next story is from one of my favorite heroes. Not because of his powers, not because he looks cool, but because he's very much a human. This next story is Daredevil, Cold Day in Hell. Written by Charles Soule, sorry if I messed that up, and illustrated by Steve McNevin. I messed that up more than the other. This story is a newer one on this list, but still excellent. This is the man without fear, Matt Murdock, is old and lost his powers. The world is corrupt and destroyed, but he still helps people by working at a shelter. One day, after an event that happens, he gets his powers back, and once again dons the mantle of Daredevil. This story is dark, grisly, but still filled with hope. Matt is a Catholic, and it penetrates his very being. Matt will always struggle with the duality of being Daredevil and being a man of faith, and that's what makes him such a great character. Then, this next book isn't a superhero book at all, but it's sci-fi love story that spans the stars. It's Saga, written by Brian K. Vaughan and illustrated by Fiona Staples. It's a boy meets girl story. Blech. but between a war-torn planet and its moon. So it's more Romeo and Juliet on the run. They have a kid, and it's where our story starts. I don't want to spoil too much, but I love to tell you this. It's got a giant cat who says the only word is lie, a TV-headed prince of a kingdom, and the core of it all is a love story about love triumphing all. These themes are strong, and I've loved this story since its inception in 2012. I continue reading this book to this day. Now, these are just some of the stories here. And honestly, I had a hard time not including some other stories. I didn't even mention some indie properties that are now huge. TMNT was a comic. Invincible was a comic. The Boys was a comic. These massive properties now define our generation, and I love comics. And they only seem to be getting bigger. Not just superhero stories, but all the stories being told. Shit, look up on Google how many adaptations of comic books are coming out this year, and there'll be lists and lists of stuff in active development. To kind of explain why I made this video. Growing up as a kid, I was troubled at best, and flat out ornery at worst. So when my parents grounded me, I was forced to stay home and I couldn't watch TV. A major punishment for a kid who escaped was TV shows and movies and games. It was a way to forget the pain and all the messed up things that I felt as a kid. Yeah, this is corny, it's emo, but it's very true. I hurt a lot and I blame myself for the pain, which is unfair. But I found a new place to escape. A new place to find my pain and anguish. Those were the pages of Flash number 92, which I had the book right now. But Flash number 92, written by Mark Waid. Incredible writer, by the way. This one is nothing but spectacular, or nothing spectacular. But I was infatuated with the world of the fastest man alive. Soon after, I couldn't get enough of comics. It didn't help my dad had hundreds of comics to choose from. It helped me connect with my dad a lot more, honestly, and it's a huge reason in who I am today. Comics as a medium are a bit overwhelming. And honestly, this video isn't a great way to start. But I hope that it can help you find a new favorite story and help you find what will change you. Hell, you might already be into comics and just wanted to hear what I say. Comment below on some of the comics you recommend for new readers. And what stories change your perception of the comic book industry, or comics in general. This is Evan from Wart Productions, and thank you so much for watching. Come back sometime.